Welcome to the think tank. Today we have a very exciting guest. Looking forward to that guest for a very long time. Master Sio. Master Sio, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So happy to have you on. I know our listeners worldwide will be excited to hear all what you have to say. And I know you're going to give value today. So let's start off by asking you, how did Master Sio start his journey?
That's a very great question. So I want to go back to driving on the freeway here in Los Angeles, and suddenly my phone rings. And I have a speaker on my dashboard. I answered it, and it turned out to be a lady from Nairobi. And she said, "Is this Master Sio?" "Yes." "How can I help you?" "I think I'm dying." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Tell me why you're dying." "I have a very bad cough and I'm sweating profusely. I have a high fever and I just feel this is like the end of the road. I went online and I saw you in Google. You are a master of medical Qigong, and I called you. I'm from Nairobi in Kenya. Can you please help me?" And I said, "Yes, I can help you. And I'm driving. You know the I-10 freeway in Los Angeles?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "We might lose the connection. I'm driving, so if we lose the connection, I will call you back. But even as I'm driving, I want you to just listen to the sound of my voice. And in the sound of my voice is my message, which is a message of profound, unconditional love for you. And you're going to feel it. And that alone is going to change your condition."
Wow.
So I'm driving. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, pretty soon you're going to start to feel certain sensations in your body. Beep. Oh, that's a near miss. I'm still driving towards my office in Santa Monica. And the lady said, "Oh my God, I see people standing at the foot of my bed. And I feel much, much better." This is within about 5 minutes. Wow. As I'm driving. And she said, "What did you do?" I said, "I told you through the sound of my unspoken word from my spirit to your spirit, mm-hmm. that I love you and that you love yourself, and then you started to fix yourself." Okay? Wow. That's what it is. I'm a master of medical Qigong. I know my art. When I talk to people, there are these little particles of light, like as you and I are talking now, through my eyes and yours, we're having a two-way communication besides the sound of my voice. These little particles of light are known as biophotons. A photon is a low-level particle of light that is constantly moving between you and I, carrying messages that are not spoken. This explains why if you look at your cat or dog, they suddenly bark into the dark. You and I have no idea what's out there, but they do, because right. They can pick up these low-level particles of light known as photons. Mm-hmm. So everything in the entire existence is composed of energy. So suddenly the phone rings, I answer, I'm on my speakerphone driving, but these photons are at work 24/7, even in our sleep. Mm-hmm. So through the study of medical Qigong, I could harness the power of energy. And in quantum physics, we know that the observation of any other photons affects that particular photon's behavior. Wow. So after years of studying and practicing, not just the theory, it's easy to know the theory, mm-hmm. but you got to go out and practice the damn stuff. There are millions of theoreticians who have no idea how to climb a coconut tree. Mm-hmm. They know the theory, but they don't practice climbing the coconut tree. They don't practice running. Mm-hmm. There are people who know how the theory of the limbs of the human body, how they move and run a marathon. But unless you run the marathon, you're not going to amount to anything as far as competitive running of a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So knowledge is great, but it's not really so great unless you apply it.
Right. Applied knowledge. Exactly.
Applied knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to practice.
Yep.
I'm at a very high level of doing my work because I practice it every day at least once.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 4 months living in a lava tube, a large cave, with very high-powered native priests in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
The price for me to acquire their knowledge was that I would not say a single word.
Wow.
As long as I was living with them.
Mm-hmm.
I waited 3 years before they allowed me to come up and stay with them. So I was traveling overseas. I finally got the phone call after waiting 3 years to be given permission to go and live with them. I asked my contact, like an intermediary, how do I prepare for this?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you just have to go there. But on one condition, no talking.
No talking.
I said, how am I going to learn?
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, you will learn once you get there. But you must promise now you will not talk while you're there. So this kind of relates to what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, you're going to have a leap of faith.
Right.
You're going to say, this is good enough.
Right.
Go. Have
First
some
video
faith.
out. That's right. First video out.
Yes. First, you hear the pistol, pop, run. Okay. Don't say, well, will I make it or not? Just run.
That's
okay.
Right.
If you don't make it, it's okay. You can try again.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up there, and in the course of, I was told initially I would be up there for 3 weeks. I wound up staying over 6 months.
Wow.
No talking. They didn't talk, I didn't talk. But on faith, I learned how to receive the subtle signals that are constantly being emitted by you as you listen to the sound of my voice, and the same with our listeners and viewers. So these photons are constantly coming out of us because we are living organisms. These photons are emitted by all living things, the shrimp, the slugs in the ocean, the earthworms, the eagle, the sparrows, and even the trees and the grass. They are constantly emitting photons, which affect every other photon. So I learned that how you do it. Now, even though we lived in very primitive conditions, we slept on the ground on dried leaves.
In the caves?
In the cave, okay? I could sense them sending me messages. And it was very, very difficult in the beginning. I thought I would go nuts after the 3rd day. But then it began to, I could hear some kind of messages coming through.
Wow.
And then I found they would send me on little errands. Go outside and look for coconuts, let's say.
Yeah.
And I got, it's some kind of fruit. And I would come back with lemons. They would say, no, you got it wrong. It's something off a tree is how I first got it. So I thought, okay, maybe this is it.
Right.
No. Eventually, I got the name of the stuff correct. I would, if they wanted guavas, I would come back with guavas.
Wow.
But then they would tell me 3 or 4. And I got the numbers mixed up. I would come with 10 instead of 3. But eventually, I got it sorted out in my mind. Okay? So, being that you are a champion of Toastmasters, I am sure that there are things like the unspoken. You might be talking, but if you look sad while you're talking happy, it doesn't jive very well.
It doesn't relate, no.
Right? It doesn't align.
You got to have that energy. You got to bring that energy. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So eventually I figured out things, and we started to tell jokes without speaking. Okay. We were allowed only one audible sound, and that was laughter.
Wow.
So we would tell each other jokes. In the beginning, it was very difficult for me, but by watching these guys, very elevated masters, 4 of them, I began to get the gist of what their message was. If it was serious, I could sense seriousness, but not the exact words. Okay, so everything in life is based on, at the deepest level, on how you feel. Okay, you remember someone, or you remember, say, a speech like in Toastmasters, from how it makes you feel.
Right.
It's not the clever words. You could have the most profound words that Shakespeare wrote, or that Mark Antony told Julius Caesar, but unless you have feeling, it doesn't amount to hardly anything.
Yeah, like I said earlier about Maya Angelou, may say people will come in your life, but people leave and the people come, but people, if you feel, feeling, that's the difference. How they make you feel. You're so right.
Absolutely. So as I was driving, when my phone suddenly rang back on the freeway, the lady was so moved, she started sobbing. She says, "How did you do it? I don't have a fever anymore. This is within 5 minutes."
Wow.
And I said, because you yourself felt what I was sending you, and you started to correct yourself. Okay, so the field that I'm in is the field of communication and healing. And unless you go to the heart of the problem, the heart of the person, I think it was Nikola Tesla who said that most diseases originate in the soul or the spirit. Therefore, the solution to almost all diseases lies in the spirit, also known as your heart or your emotions. You move that into a certain level of feeling, and it'll begin to self-correct.
Right. Are you familiar? Are you not to sidetrack you? Are you familiar with the Heart Math Institute in Los Angeles? The Heart Math.
I've heard of it, but I am not intimately familiar with it.
Right. It's about love from the heart, and the heart has a brain, and it's a very interesting phenomenon. It's quantum physics, because we feel with our heart. You know, we don't feel with our brain. We feel with that love, that emotion. You know, that again, that feeling, and it's interesting. And if you get a chance, look at the Heart Math Institute. They've done a lot of research on that quantum physics and the feeling coming from the heart. So, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. Yeah. Right.
So I have to. You were alluding before to how did I get to do what I do. Right. And why I'm called a master.
Good.
Because I have mastered certain things. Of course, not everything, but I have mastered a portion of the portion of the portion of the niche that I specialize in. There are generalists, like, for example, physicians. They are in general practice. And there are cardiologists, there are ophthalmologists, and all of them, they work through dedication, which comes not from the mind, but from the heart. Right. Indigenous people in the ancient days, like in Hawaii, they were called kahuna, okay? Kahunas, they're native Hawaiian priests. Parts of Africa, I guess loosely, Westerners have called them medicine men or witchcraft or something, but there's no such things as witches. Right. These folks in the ancient Aboriginals of Australia and practitioners in New Zealand, I mixed a lot with people like that. And what I found that a lot of modern people call mumbo jumbo, it was really cutting edge science. They were practicing without knowing the modern theory science. They were practicing quantum physics. Right. Okay, where they could affect people with their thoughts. Right. On 1,000 miles away, they could do this. Just like I did with the lady in Nairobi. I did it when I learned with the native priests in Hawaii, they didn't talk to me about the theories that Einstein promulgated, or what quantum physics is, particle theory, string theory, and so on. They just talked about feeling. Okay, you have to feel. Okay, and so I discovered something very profound. These ancient practitioners, as primitive as some of us now think they were practicing particle theory, quantum physics, without knowing the actual formal terminology. Would you agree?
Oh, without a doubt. Particle theory, that's indeed. Like I told you the story, and I remember I said to you the story some 20 years ago when I was walking at the University of Berkeley, California, and I saw this leaflet on the ground. I picked it up, and the leaflet said to me, "Have you ever thought of somebody?" And that person called you.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go into that, but this is your show now. I want to listen to you. I don't want to give you my, but it's similar concepts, right? Exactly.
Absolutely. So you mentioned heart math, I think.
Right.
I forget the author's name, but he was a neuroscientist. And he talked of how people communicate. For example, he said that a woman, she had a heart transplant.
Right.
And she started to dream of riding motorcycles. Okay. She was a school teacher, and it was the furthest thing from her mind is to ride motorcycles.
Right.
Then she started wearing leather jackets. And finally she thought she was going nuts, talked to her doctor, and eventually they tracked the guy, the heart donor, okay? Right. And they found out it was a guy, young fellow, who, and she was a pretty healthy eater, but she started to eat like junk food from McDonald's. But now she's wearing a leather jacket, riding a motorcycle. Turned out that the heart donor was a young man who died riding a motorcycle. He was wearing a leather jacket. Wow. And in his leather jacket was chips from McDonald's. Right. French fries. Okay? So the guy's been dead for years. But the heart contained messages from him, and it affected the lady. You understand?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a similar story like that. There was a young girl who was a heart recipient from another young lady, and within 3 weeks or 4 weeks after she had that new heart, she was having just terrible nightmares of someone coming to kill her and stab her. I mean, they couldn't understand. It was just going crazy. So they did some investigation, and they found the heart that she received was from a heart of a young lady who was stabbed. And they took the heart from her and transport. So they made the correlation. The heart remembered, and that's why it went into. And then so they finally had to give her treatments and psychiatrists. But the heart from another person, she was having the same nightmares of what happened to the person who was killed. So it's absolutely it's absolutely true. You know, I've seen that phenomenon many times. So you're right on point.
Okay, so that's part of the story of how I'm known as Master Sio. When I was very young, my father was a physician, Western trained. Right. He would be like a MD here. And his sister, my aunt, was a healer and an herbalist, and hardly any schooling. So they were from the opposite ends of the spectrum. Right. My father believed very much in prescribing medicines, and my aunt believed in preparing herbs from potions from the bark of guavas and leaves and so on. Like we say, bush medicine. Yes. And I used to go visit her, and some of her clients would come and they would sit. She lived right next door to our home. And she would just sit on the ground and look at them. Just look. And after a while, they felt a whole lot better just looking, okay? So as I mentioned before, we have these little tiny beyond microscopic size known as photons.
Photons,
and
yeah.
you can emit these things and they will affect the behavior of another photon simultaneously thousands of miles away. So this is how I finally, she never studied anything about quantum physics. Neither did I,
Right.
but this is the fact. So what appeared to be like woo-woo treatments was actually, ironically, cutting edge.
It is.
When we think of it, she just looked at their eyes and these photons kept bouncing back and forth. Suddenly they didn't have the headache anymore. Okay? And then she would give them some kind of potion or poultice made out of the bark of trees. Now we know that most modern pharmaceuticals actually were derived from herbs.
Right.
Okay? The original medicines were natural medicines.
Oh, yes.
Then Big Pharma decided, okay, how can we figure out the molecular structure of these things and manufacture them in a lab and put our stamp on it and charge $100 a pill. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, case in point, I'm from the Caribbean in the island of St. Lucia. And I remember growing up, my mother, we never went to the doctor. My grandmother, I went to visit my grandmother for summer vacation. If I had a headache or a stomachache, she'd go out in the backyard, pull up some bush and actually boil it in water, let it steep for a little while and put it in no sugar, just drink that. And I felt better.
That's right.
That's the medicine we had. And that's the medicine from way back history. You know, they didn't have doctors, but people were healed. So it's so true, you know?
That's right. Hopefully, we will not be deprived of our natural remedies and supplements. So it was a long road for me, but in any event, so at about the age of 7 or so, I would go and I would sit on a pillow or lie very close to my aunt while she was practicing her work with her clients. And I would hear this limited amount of talking, but I would observe what she was doing. It was just staring into people's eyes.
Wow.
And just recently, I found out what was going on. She was practicing art that is now known as quantum physics.
Right. Yep.
She never heard of photons beaming back and forth.
Right.
But that's what she was doing.
Right.
The sheer proximity of her practicing her work somehow got infused into me. And so I recall shortly after that particular time, playing with my buddies in a field, and one sprayed his knee, and I comforted him like kids do.
Right, right.
And I put my hand on his knee, and suddenly he said he felt much better, without knowing what I was doing.
What you were doing, right.
And so in the same sense that I learned from, in my adult life, from these priests in Hawaii, I learned, not knowing what I was doing, just by being close to my aunt and her work. Everything affects everybody. As you sit there, maybe there's some breeze coming in, carrying in certain photons that are affecting you. Okay. Now they find out that maybe, I read this recently in Wisconsin. They found in a field in Wisconsin, a particular type of dirt that is found only in Rwanda.
Wow.
In Africa. How did it get there? Very minute particles got caught up in the jet stream and just flew over in the stratosphere and came down in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Okay? So we are affecting everybody. Your listeners are affected by the way that you look at them, the sound of your voice and the sound of my voices. It's unknowingly, they are affected by it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So we have to be very careful how we say things and the feelings that we are exuding from our mouths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
There's a book, there's several books that I've read because I'm an avid reader, like I told you. I read probably 4 or 5 books a week. And there's a book called Thought Forms. Thought Forms.
Yes.
And the whole premise of the book is that whatever you think of, whatever you think about, whatever you say has value. So be careful of what you say. So that if you don't, so don't say, well, I'm having a hard time today. No, you say that, you're going to have a hard time. You don't speak what you don't want to happen to you. So you rephrase that. You rephrase that thought. You say, don't even say I'm having a challenging day. My day is going to get better every day. By the minute, my day will get better. So you've changed that dialogue. Every day in every way. One of my mantras is every day in every way, I get better and better in every way. Every day in every way. Even if I may have a hard day, but I never say I'm having a hard day. I still believe every day in every way, I am having a better day. And that's how I think. But it's hard sometimes, You don't
That
remember.
sounds,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's how I relate to myself, because I check myself, or my wife will say to me, or a friend of mine will say to me, Martin, what did you just say there? I said, I'm trying to build my YouTube channel. And he said, no, it's already built. You have to accentuate it, you have to make it better. So friends help friends. This is iron sharpens iron. That's what he says to me.
Absolutely.
Yes,
It sounds very similar to some of the writings of Napoleon Hill and Clement Stone and people like that.
Yeah, I love these guys, Carl Jung, and
yes,
there's all these famous old school authors who had that vision of what they wanted. They saw it before it happened, and it all became, like Nikola Tesla is one of my, I can't tell you, I love this guy, man. And he didn't get his due until his death, but he left us everything, So
yeah, absolutely.
anyway, my next question for you, which is that's good. That gives us a good bio about you and how you got to where you are. What value do you say you have clients right now, right?
I have what?
You have clients. You actually you do this as a business.
You mean, do I practice this as a profession, you mean?
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. So what value do you give your customers? What value do you give to them? Give me a little bit more depth.
Okay. Here's one value. I told you earlier, the lady from Nairobi.
Right.
Okay. Just talking to her, she couldn't believe it. If you don't see that as value, then value has no meaning.
Right.
Okay? She's at the edge of death.
Wow.
And she calls me, and within minutes, the fever left. Okay? I have to say that I am not the only one doing this. There are many, many, many people doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Right.
But that is value. She saw the value. She flew from Nairobi. She said, "Can you teach me what you do?" I said, "Yes." She's going to charge you. I'm going to charge you for teaching you. She got on a plane, came to Los Angeles, put herself up at the Hyatt, and saw me every single day for 18 days.
Wow.
Okay. So I gave her value. She gave me value. She paid me every day. She paid me a couple of $100 just for about a half hour.
Right.
To see her and transfer some energy, and I supervised her to do the same kind of healing work that I did to her on other people, other actual clients of mine. I think this particular one was in Ohio. And so she, in the space of 18 days, she was able to practice the same thing as me.
Wow.
Okay. Maybe we're not at the same level. Okay,
right.
I have to tell you something. If you were doing, say, a PhD, okay, you have to write your, you go through your baccalaureate degree, then your master's, and then you have to write a dissertation for your PhD, which is great. Okay, so you accepted, you got the PhD. However, the professor, even though he told you everything that he knew, is still a little bit better than you.
Right.
The reason for that is he's been in the jungle for decades. He knows things that you don't know from reading books. This is the reason why physicians have to serve a residency in a hospital. They don't just come out of med school and go right and start practicing.
Right.
They have to be kind of supervised.
Right.
So even though the professor, yes, he's walked you through the whole thing, now you get your PhD, but you then have to go and apply the work. Okay?
Right.
So this lady just today, this morning, I got a call from one of the people that I taught here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Louise. She said, Master Sio, look, I used the technique that you showed me on a person like, I think she said 3 weeks. I have a text here from her.
Mm-hmm.
Her son was very depressed, okay, almost suicidal.
Wow.
And my student, now she's my colleague,
Mm-hmm.
sight unseen, did this on the phone and said, okay, I'm going to send some frequencies to help his son. And now he is not only a very happy guy, he got a raise, he got his girlfriend back, all sorts of wonderful, almost miraculous things started happening because what my student did was to convince him through unspoken frequencies that he is worth loving.
Right. Right.
Okay? Before you can love other people, you must love yourself.
You must. I say it every day. That's my favorite line.
Once
I love me more than anybody in the world. Before I can
it.
give love, you got to love yourself. Right.
And that's all she did. So my student calls me and says, he's still flying for 3 weeks. More and more abundance is coming to him. Is this possible? And I said, yes, it is possible. Congratulations. Keep doing it. Okay? So it's like anything else.
Right.
Michael Jordan didn't just get to be a great, great, great basketball player.
Yep.
He slept basketball. He imagined throwing the ball and the ball going through the hoop thousands and thousands of times. And he actually gets out there on the court and starts throwing the ball. Miss, miss, miss. You just don't give up. You keep doing it, right?
Well,
and eventually you want to get better. Same thing with Tiger Woods.
Right.
He wasn't just born like that.
No. He was given a club at 3 years old, start swinging, and he just kept working. I mean, case in point, I mean, like I told you, I came to the United States on a track and field scholarship. And I was a star athlete in junior high school and high school. And when I came to university, I went to junior college, and it was an innate feeling that I had. I knew what I wanted. I saw it ahead of time. It became a reality. And even when I was being coached by the top coaches in the university, they always tell you, because I was a 100-meter runner, you know, when you get in the blocks, you run, before you start, you see the race in your mind. You see the first 50, you want to be the first person to 30 meters. You want to be the first person to 60 meters. And the 60 meters now, if you're the first person, then you want to relax. I mean, so you see all those mechanisms in your mind, and you see yourself cutting the tape first, you're winning. So that's been around for a long time, but people don't realize that athletes do that a lot. I mean, Djokovic, the #1 player in the world, when he tosses the ball out to serve in tennis, he sees he hits the ball in the right spot. He goes through that mechanism, and when he's bouncing the ball, he sees the motion. You know, you see it, and it becomes a reality. But you have to believe it also. Like you said, knowledge is good, but you got to apply the knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So in terms of my work, I picture the person as being whole. Okay. Now, there are some people expect, because of the, sometimes there are very, very dramatic effects.
Right.
Like the lady from Nairobi. Okay. Boom, she lost her fever. She became great. She flew over here to see me.
Right.
Other people, there's hardly any sign of improvement, okay? As much as I know what I'm doing, the recipient also has to open a little bit of a door.
Right.
for me to come in. If they're completely shut, there's not much use. Might as well forget it. Okay?
They have to believe also. They have to believe.
Yes.
Right.
I tell them this. The reason that you come to see me, you are like a car that's broken down. Okay? That's why you come to see me. You don't come to see me because you have a humming Mercedes-Benz that's running perfectly. You come to me because you're broken. Okay?
Right.
And the least you will do is try to cooperate. Okay? You are like broken down. I'm the tow truck. I'm trying to tow you. Don't put your car, I don't care if it's a Mercedes, don't put it in park because it won't move. Okay? You have to be at least neutral.
Right.
The worst you can do is to start your motor and put it in reverse when I'm trying to tow you forward.
That's right.
Okay? Then just forget it.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Exactly.
And they say, what about a unconscious person? I worked with an unconscious person one time in a coma. And I said, now I tell you these true stories so that your audience will understand that a lot of things are possible that normally are not possible. Okay? And so we step from the field of Newtonian physics into quantum physics.
Quantum, yeah.
Okay? Which is loosely also known as the spirit world.
Right.
Or the ether.
Right.
So the lady calls me, my husband is in a coma. I said, okay, put the phone, and he can't speak. He's been like this for like almost a month. Put the phone to his ear. Well, he doesn't respond to sounds. I said, please, you ask for my help. You try to give me a little bit of, give me a little leeway here.
A little heads up, yeah.
He said, we tried everything, he's almost dead. I said, well, I wish you had called me before we got to this point.
Get this far, yeah.
At least let's try.
Yeah.
Put it on speakerphone and put it close to his ear. And he said, what's that gonna do? I said, well, we don't know. And I said, hello, and I mentioned his name. How are you? And I could hear gurgling sound. And the wife screamed, oh my God, he's trying to say something.
Wow.
He's never said this. I never met this guy. And he was like 3,000 miles away. But there is something that connects us all.
Right.
This is what the Heart Math Institute works with.
Right.
There's something that in the quantum field that connects us. It's called the field.
Right.
And so when I spoke to him, he could feel it. And he was trying to talk. He never did talk. But at that particular point, the physician on duty came in with a couple of nurses, and they were kind of astounded. They said, what's going on? Right, right. And the guy's trying to talk, and they said, well, the medicine must be working. This is, I love doctors. My own father was a doctor. I have a doctor that I visit when I can't fix myself. Okay? Right. Sure. But the human body has a remarkable ability to resuscitate or renew or to heal itself, right, given the right tools. You have to eat the right foods. I think you alluded to this earlier. You have to eat the right foods. You have to have a proper amount of rest. You have to exercise and so on.
Immune system. You got to build that immune system. You got to help it. You can read all the books you want, but like you said, if you don't apply the knowledge. You know, I take a walk every day, almost every day in the sun to get my, because I know now with the coronavirus, I have to optimize my immune system, and it's very important to me, and I try my best to do it every day. Exactly.
So this morning, I went out like 8 o'clock. The sun's already up. We have to get a sufficient amount of sunshine. Right. So I took my shirt off. I was wearing shorts in the middle of a park. I had my mat with me. I practiced medical Qi Gong. very slow movements, deliberate movements, but they move the energy. And then I did a little bit of yoga, and I walked around a few times. I did my exercises with bare feet so that I would be grounding myself, connecting to Mother Earth. And so I live very simply. I eat very simply. I think a lot of our troubles come from eating the wrong foods, including GMO foods and processed foods. I consult with a lot of people who come to me. Number one, I have to stress that I am not a physician.
No, right.
What I am is a Qigong master. It's very similar to being a priest. Okay, right. I'm also a Hawaiian priest.
Right.
So I work with what is loosely called the spirit, but scientifically it is called energy.
Right, the quantum physics, the quantum world.
Right.
Exactly.
That's all I do, is manipulate the energy. And then the person, amazingly, hears this and starts to self-correct.
Right.
I don't prescribe any sort of medicine or tell them what to do. I encourage them to see their physician on major things. But for the most part, I think we all become more healthy just by looking after ourselves.
Right.
Proper nutrition, proper rest, exercise, and so on. And when you know you can't handle it, of course, by all means, go see your physician.
Definitely, you know, yeah, definitely, right? Without a doubt, without a doubt. Man, this was a mouthful, you know. Very interesting, very interesting. I'm so happy that our paths crossed. And I mean, we could talk for hours, but like I tell all my customers, I don't like to go too long, because sometimes, you know, when you talk too much, you lose people sometimes, right? But you give value.
Yes, I agree. Let me give you just a 2-minute anecdote.
Good.
True story. I'm in my office. The phone rings. It's a lady from Temecula in
California.
Yeah.
In the desert, right?
Yes, right. She calls and said, "My dog is dying." And I said, "Oh, what am I supposed to do? I heard that you work with a lot of very sick people, and I thought maybe you can work with a dog." I said, "I haven't tried it, but what do you want to know?" She says, "I want to drive up and see you, because my neighbor said she came to you, and give it a long shot and bring my dog to you." It's a little tiny pup, Pomeranian, I think.
Yeah, Pomeranian.
Beautiful little dog.
Yeah.
So she said, the vet has given up, and the vet said, best you can do is give it a little water now and then. It's going to die.
Right, right.
And I said, well, you better talk to him. So she calls him and says, the vet said he's going to die for sure on the freeway. Okay. Wow. But I want to take a chance anyway.
Sure.
Said, okay, we're on. Come. So she shows up with a little baby stroller. It was the cutest little thing, with lace all around, and a poor little Pomeranian's just lying there looking dead. And I said, oh, wow, what a beautiful little dog. And I didn't even touch the dog. But everything in existence works on a certain frequency. Right. So I said, okay, you just watch the dog, and I'm going to start ramping up my energy and send some frequencies into your little puppy. After a little while, the dog opened his eyes. And started barking. And clawed at the little screen made out of lace. And the lady started bawling her eyes out. Opened it up, hugged the little dog. And believe it or not, the dog knew that I had something to do with this. The little dog moved over and sat on me. They drove home very happy. She sent me an email and a video. The little dog was running around the yard. Wow. Eating instead of dying on the freeway like the vet said. Right. Okay. So what this boils down to, my work is based on unconditional love. Right. Even dogs know this. Oh, yes. You've heard of people who talk to their plants, okay? And the plant grows better. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Right? Now, there's a Japanese professor, his name slips my mind. He took pictures of water crystals.
Yeah, yeah. Is it immortal? Is it
Immortal.
yes,
Immortal.
immortal. Yes,
Right.
exactly. He spoke to the water.
Right.
You're loving water. You are so beautiful. I love you. I love you. The water stays
Yes.
clear. And the
Yes.
other water, you know, I'm not trying to bust your bubble here, but you know, I know it so well because it's so
That's
true.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
And
And then the
you
other
took,
water, he said, you are so disgusting. You are the scum of the earth. And he was
yes.
just talking bad to the other glass. And then that water turned black, brown,
Yes. That's it.
so murky. That is amazing.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, there's so many, I mean, we can go on because, you know, I drink sun charged water. I put water
Yeah.
out in the sunlight, let it for charge for 8 hours. You drink that energizes your body. I do earthing. I do sun gazing. So we can talk about a lot of things that we haven't touched there, you know, but time is of the essence. So what I'm going to do is tell our listeners, how can they get hold of you? What is your website, your email address, maybe your website or your Facebook page?
Okay. So my it's master as in quartermaster, MASTER, Sio, S like Sam, I-O, mastersio.com. That's my website.
Right.
And my email is mastersio@mastersio.com.
And your Facebook page, what's your Facebook page?
Hmm?
You have a Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay, base everything, facebook.com/masterseo?
Mastersio 1.
One, okay, good. So there's a
One.
one.
Or just punch in on the search field Mastersio and I'll come up somehow.
And that'll pop up. One.
A lady from Nairobi found me on Google.
On Google?
Never heard of me.
Wow.
She Googled up Qi Gong Masters and my name popped up.
Trust me, we're going to be in communication a lot. You know, it's amazing how we met, and we have so much in common, and we're on a similar path to heal the world. And love is the answer. Love in all the chaos going on right now, in all the chaos, love is the answer. Trust me on
Absolutely.
that. Yes.
Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do, so it's been
Martin,
a
thank you
pleasure.
so much for spending some time with me.
Oh man, it's absolute pleasure. We'll definitely keep the communication going. Thank you for being with us today. It's been a great pleasure, and I wish you nothing but speed, but Godspeed. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.